know me, I'm Sherrie Rohde. I'm the community manager at Magento. That means a lot of things. If you want to know what, you can ask me later. But I'm here to talk about building an inclusive Magento community. This has been a really important topic for me, really, ever since I was about that old. I used to try to invite basically the entire neighborhood to my birthday parties, and my mom apparently didn't want to pay for the entire neighborhood. So including people has always been something that I've been pretty passionate about. Another reason why it matters to me is what you can't tell from this picture. This is from my first Magento conference. Is anyone here at your first Magento conference ever? Anyone? Yeah? Okay. Cool. So I had actually massive social anxiety about going to my first conference because I didn't know anyone in person before I went. This picture is from like the opening party on day one, I think, so obviously I got over that very quickly. But it's a reminder to me that it is often kind of uncomfortable coming to your first event when you don't know anyone. Before I get started, I want to make a disclaimer. I am not a diversity and inclusion expert at all. And something that's really terrifying is working on a talk about diversity and inclusion because there are so many thoughts, opinions, research, experts, etc. out there. But I did do a lot of research for this, and I want to kind of help us all work together on building an inclusive Magento community. My friend's mom, and I find these are some of the best people for advice, once told us that if you want to change the world, you have to change your corner of it first. And it turns out my corner of the world is kind of big these days. So there are certified Magento individuals in 78 countries, which is a lot. And obviously there's Magento in even more of the world than that. Those 78 countries, by the way, are on 6 of 7 continents, so if anyone wants to volunteer to teach the penguins how to Magento, I'm all for Meet Magento Antarctica. We also have Magento events led by the community in over 30 countries around the world in the form of meetups, conferences, etc. So it's a pretty cool community. These are the faces of some of the people who have started the conversation around diversity and inclusion in our community over the last year. We had a diversity in tech panel at Imagine, and we had a session that Sonia and I led at the Unconference a couple weeks ago in the Netherlands around building an inclusive Magento community. There's been podcasts, there's been blog posts, there's been a lot of talk around mostly inclusion. So what I want to do today in the time that we have, and I just realized I didn't start my timer, is to present an understanding of diversity and inclusion, as well as give you some actionable takeaways that you can apply yourself. Because I really think that inclusion, there are a lot of massive efforts that organizations can do, but I think we all have an individual responsibility with some grassroots efforts that we can do as well. So that's what I really want to get down to. My focus will be on inclusion, but first I want to spend just a couple minutes on defining diversity for you, probably in a different way than you're used to. Diversity to me really is anything that causes us to experience life differently from someone else. And a very simple example that you may relate to, we all experience the web differently depending on which device we're using. And the web, let's face it, is a big part of our lives, so we experience life differently. Probably anyone who works in UX understands this better than anyone else, but there are a lot of elements of diversity. On the left here, diversity it's really more than what you can see. We focus a lot on race, ethnicity, and gender because those are things that you can see, but it also includes things like age, personality, education, background, disabilities. It's really the entire human experience, and when you define it as a broader realm, it eliminates really the us versus we. It allows you to realize that we're all unique individuals and how valuable that can be. Has anyone here heard of the Techies Project? No one? Okay, cool. So this project actually was done by someone named Helena Price. She did a call for interviews of people who work in Silicon Valley. She had over like 500 people, I think, apply and did interviews with 100 of them, as well as photos. It's a really cool site. I encourage you to check it out, and I'll get a little bit more into it later. But she really wanted to get down to what diversity is all about, beyond percentages, beyond filling quotas. but about the power of diverse perspectives. And so through this, she showcased really how many different people make up Silicon Valley and how that all plays out. Raise your hand if you've ever had a problem you couldn't solve. Be honest. Okay, some of you are a lot smarter than me. Congratulations. We need people on our teams who think differently than us, people in our community who think differently than us. Because when there's a problem you can't solve, a lot of times if you bring in another perspective, you actually can find a solution. And working with people who are different from you actually will help challenge your brain in its stale ways of thinking. Our community is really good at this. I think these are some, probably not even all, of the ways that our community collaborates together and contributes through GitHub with code, through dev docs, organizing events, writing books and blog posts, creating podcasts, translations, answering questions on the forums and Stack Exchange. These all require different types of people and different skill sets and different personalities. By 2020, according to Women Who Code, there will be 1.4 million computer science jobs available in the US. Sorry, I don't know in Poland. Only 400,000 potential computer science college grads, which leaves 1 million jobs unfilled. Now, I know that you don't have to have a computer science degree to work in tech, to work in e-commerce. However, it is data that we have, and it does indicate this gap. Another data point I have for you is from the IDC study we did, and again, we can't count the entire Magento community. It's just not possible. We don't have the tools we need to do that. But there were 1,100 jobs at Magento partners in 2016, and that's projected to be 36,000 in 2020. So again, there's going to be a gap of people, and if you've ever tried to hire anyone in the Magento world, you kind of know how difficult that is to find someone with experience. I'm letting some people take a picture here. Go ahead. Kalen saw that need, and that's why he created Commerce Hero, to try to connect employers and prospective employees to help eliminate that gap in the hiring world. Basically, all of this is just to say that inclusion is really crucial because we need more people and we need more diverse perspectives, and none of the efforts towards that will matter if people aren't feeling welcomed and included when they get here. One of the downsides about groups that we learned about from psychology is that automatically when there are groups forming, you have an in-group and an out-group. Tom Robert Shaw talked about this in his blog post about inclusion. And inclusion just doesn't happen organically. It's something that we actually have to make concentrated efforts for. It really takes a team, and we all have to work together on it. So first I'm going to share some tips that are really more targeted towards those organizing events, which I know some of you do, because I recognize a lot of the faces in here. And then I'm going to drill down into some that anyone can do, no matter what, no matter who you are. So often I hear someone saying, but how do I get more fill in the blank attending or presenting at my event? Usually that word is women, let's be honest. But it really applies to any underrepresented group. One key thing that you can do is diverse representation. When we were talking with Guido on the podcast that we recorded at Magento Netherlands, which isn't released yet, so don't worry, you haven't missed it. One thing we were talking about is he asked us, why do you think that there are fewer women here this year than there were last year? And Sonia suggested actually that last year they had a lot more pictures of the women on their team organizing the event leading up to the event, and that it's possible that women felt more welcome attending because they saw themselves in those pictures. Going back to the Techies project, it actually has a filter at the top, which I didn't have expanded before, but you can actually look through and see people who are 50 plus in Silicon Valley, people who have no degree, people of color, people who came from a background of poverty, and it really helps people find profiles that resonate with them. It also gives you the opportunity to learn about people who are different than you, which is also very powerful. So either way, that representation just is really key. Who saw Wonder Woman? Anyone? Like 3 people. Okay, cool. Did anyone see the video of this little girl crying when she met Gal Gadot at Comic-Con? So what was really cool is she was just so overwhelmed about seeing a woman in a superhero role. that she could see herself in that, and so it actually like led her to tears. Anika, who is a panelist on another comic podcast, was talking about with Miss Marvel, it's a similar thing where she realized that she doesn't have to be a stronger version of herself. She doesn't have to change anything about herself. She can be who she is. And it's funny how we see that in things like film and movies, and really that applies because we can say, oh, they can do this too, so can I, because we see ourselves in them. Another simple way is by offering something called a diversity scholarship. I've seen more and more events doing this. If you want to encourage people from underrepresented groups to come to your event, eliminate the financial barriers because they may be there. There was an event that did this recently in LA. I've seen some others do it too. Someone came and talked to me recently because they weren't finding anyone diverse really to speak on their niche topic at an event. And there was a sponsor that was unwilling to sponsor them because of this. And my suggestion to them was to look at this trend of diversity and inclusion scholarships and offer that, because if there really is no one out there, which they looked through several lists, they talked to several people in the area, it was a valiant effort for sure. If there really is no one out there, then let's get people there. And one of the ways to do that is to get them to your event where they can learn more about it so that maybe next year they can be one presenting. Another big thing is expertise should be your qualifier. So we all know that you're inviting someone different than you because you're trying to fill those quotas that we talked about earlier. But don't ever reach out to anyone and say, hey, can you come speak at my event because I need more women? Please don't ever do that. It's really, I can't find the right word besides annoying, which isn't actually the word I'm looking for. But you should invite someone because of their expertise. Someone actually came up to me recently and was telling me they were invited to be on a panel because the intro is literally, I need women on my panel, will you speak? Not, hey, I know you're an expert in conversion optimization, can you speak? Or, hey, I know you're really great at testing, can you speak? And I think this really, really matters because you need to put underrepresented groups up there because they have something to say, something important to say, not just because they're underrepresented. Yeah, anyway, I don't want to go on and on about that because I can, but it is really important. I will say one last thing is someone reached out to me who I do really respect, and they were like, I would like to invite a woman to co-present with me to help more women present. Is that weird? Can I do that? And which, by the way, you're always welcome to ask me questions like this. And I was like, no, as long as you say, hey, I've seen that you've been really active in this field, you know what you're talking about. I'm looking to like mentor a new speaker or co-present with someone, would you be interested in doing so? That completely changes it. On a more lighthearted note, a little bit, pieces of flair. Anyone seen Office Space? Okay, more people than saw Wonder Woman, cool. In Office Space, it's just kind of funny because they have like these numbers of pieces of flair that they have to have on their outfit and everything, and they're like buttons that represent different things. And this is something that I've seen happen more and more at conferences lately. So on the left is my badge from Open Source Summit, and they actually had topical buttons. So for example, I had the buttons for community, the buttons for inclusion on my lanyard, and then they actually had to make your own button too, so I drew the Magento logo out and put that on there as well, and it just helps people quickly look and say, oh, I can talk to you about that subject. Similar to if anyone was in Sonia's talk sharing, hey, you can talk to me about, I think it was dogs, bikes, and ballroom dancing. So see, that works, it stands out, I remember. And then the sticker actually was interesting. They had green, yellow, and red stickers, and the green sticker meant, come talk to me. The yellow sticker meant, talk to me if you know me, and the red sticker meant, not at this time, which is a little funny, but some people don't want to be talked to, and that's cool to indicate as well. On the right, the smiley face button on the badge from DribbleCon there was something that their diversity and inclusion collaboration was handing out to anyone who wanted to just say, hey, you can come talk to me, like about anything, it doesn't matter. So that's what that button stood for. Okay. if everyone's still with me, I'm going into individual inclusion now. So this is more around tips that any of us can do, no matter what your role is in your company, in the community, in your ecosystem, whatever it may be. First of all, be accessible. If you're a speaker, which I know most of the talks have already happened, but invite people to come talk to you later. It can be something unrelated, like Sonia was sharing earlier. It doesn't matter, just make sure that you're making yourself accessible for those conversations. Don't go hide in a speaker room or anything like that, but make it easy for people to find you. I know Kuba opened with this, Sonia shared it a couple days ago on Twitter, but the Pac-Man rule, and some of us are kind of joking about it, but it really is fun to like leave a gap in your group conversation so that someone can come join in. You can take that a step further, and if you see someone hovering, like motion to the space and be like, hey, come join our group. It's cool. I think a lot of times we see, again, it goes back to the in-groups and out-groups, we see these groups of people and we think, hey, they've known each other forever, I'm probably not welcome in that conversation, and you don't realize that maybe even a year ago this person didn't know anyone in the community very well. Look for opportunities to make space for others around you, and what this means is suggest someone. So if you see someone that's like a good fit for a talk, or you think, hey, this person would be great to talk to this person, like make those connections, make those introductions, and really just advocate for those around you. Be a mentor. I am a huge advocate of mentorship. It's really important to me. I think one of the clearest signs of this was at Mage Titans Italy. That team, Rebecca Brockton, Andra Lungu, and Alessandro Ronchi, launched a membership program for new speakers. Mentorship. It's tongue-tied. It's day 2 of the conference, right? And doing this, offering the ability to new speakers to mentor them so that they didn't have to worry about not feeling confident as speakers. They actually were able to have 50% of their proposals came in from people who had never spoken at an international event before. And I can't remember what their number was the previous year, but it was definitely a change for them. In addition to speaker mentorship, there's a site called php-mentoring.org by Liz Smith, who's a PHP core dev. There are currently only 3 people on there tagged as Magento for mentors, so there's a lot of opportunity there to mentor people in the Magento space. In addition to that, go ahead. In addition to that, Kaylin also launched an area on Commerce Hero for mentors. So if you want, you can go in your profile and mark yourself as available for mentoring. And if you're looking for a mentor, you can go to commercehero.io/mentor. And what's really important is to educate yourself. So if this is at all important to you, I would recommend you to go dive into diversity and inclusion on your own. Our biggest obstacle to diversity is fear. Much like I stated in the beginning, there's a lot of conversations, and I think a lot of people who want to do the right thing are actually scared because there's so many SJWs, et cetera, out there that will just jump down your throat if you make one wrong word. And I get that, I totally do. But really what this comes from is a fear of change and a fear of those who are different of us and a fear of shame and admitting our privilege. And it's really just a problem for people that are afraid of the unknown. So if we can take that unknown and make it known, it's not so scary. It makes it easier. I definitely recommend this book, Blind Spot. Full disclosure, I've not done it yet because it takes me a while to get through it. But it helps you learn a lot about your hidden biases. That's why the tagline is Hidden Biases of Good People. It's about things that we don't realize about ourselves and how we see the world differently. There's actually some like self-tests you can take in there too to help realize biases that you may not even know you had that you can then address. Follow people different from you. Follow, implying Twitter, but there are other ways of doing this as well. But it's really interesting when you can shake up the conversations that are happening in your social streams so that, and in your social lives as well, so that you get a broader perspective of what's going on out there. Our masters actually span across 12 countries. They have a variety of backgrounds and roles, which I think is really cool. It's interesting because 2 years now we've gotten masters together in a room at Imagine. Most of them, not all of them, can make it. And there's always people there that haven't met each other. And first of all, I have a problem where I think that if I know this person and this person, they must know each other. It's just something that happens in my head, but it blows my mind when people who are so active in our community haven't met each other before. It's crazy. But my point is that if you follow them, you'll open up into different pockets, different groups around the ecosystem that you might not even be aware of. And you can follow that rabbit trail to find even more people. And most importantly, before you leave, because we still have some time left today, make sure you say hi to people you don't know. Now, for extroverts, your target may be a little bit higher than for introverts, but try to challenge yourself to at least meet 3 people that you don't know before you leave. You can adjust that number if that's too easy for you. And really, like, it's so important. You might open doors that you didn't know what was there. And worst case scenario, like, maybe you felt uncomfortable for 10 seconds. It's really not the end of the world. I promise you'll forget about it soon enough. So that's really all I have. So thank you. This is where you can find me on Twitter. That's my email. Feel free to use it. I promise I answer it eventually. Sometimes it takes me a little while if I'm at events. But yeah, let's work together to build an inclusive Magento community, guys.